Thank you, Christian. What about you then, Dickie? Who have you got in the dreaded drop zone? And it's even worse, isn't it, when your team's in the league to call out the four that might be going
It,
down?
it is difficult, and I suppose in the same way that Christian was talking about Southport, I have to say I've got concerns for Chorley. I thought Chorley dropped away quite badly last season, um, and I've heard or that it's kind of been fed back to me that perhaps the ownership there aren't wholly committed or aren't really sort of like really sort of like putting the investment in there particularly. So I'm not sure about them. So I've gone for them. I have Hereford in there as well. I'll get pelters for that one. Um, but as much as well as they did last season, when their backs were against the wall, then it's quite different when you start with a clean slate. I look at the recruitment that they've done since and just don't really think it's any better, to be perfectly honest. So, regrettably, I think I can see them being down there again. I have Radcliffe in there too. I just think the way that they dropped away last season was quite alarming. Um, and I also have Bedford Town in there as well, principally because they've lost the goals of Tyrone Marsh, and he was, I wouldn't say wholly responsible, but Marsh was, the top goal scorer in the division last season. Take 26 goals out of that Bedford team. They're also not going to have Nathan Ashmore on loan, as they did last season in goal. I, I'm 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 a bit concerned, and there's the Lee Bircham factor because I think Lee Bircham was a huge part of what went on at Bedford Town. And obviously, he's now working with Joe at Hemel, or should I say, Joe is working with him? Makes it sound like Joe's the manager there. Um, and I think that can be a factor as well. I can't remember the name of the guy who's taken over. I'm led to believe he's only about 28, 29 years old. They've appointed from within, which I think is laudable. Um, but I don't know. I think they've just got too many possible red flags about Bedford there that principally the Marsh thing. As I say, if you take that many goals out of a team that didn't score a huge amount of goals anyway, where are they going to come from?
Fair enough, Dickie. Fair enough. Joe, what about yourself then? And while you're at it, give us the name of the Bedford town manager because I know you've just been Googling it or you knew it already. Did
Yeah, I
you?
knew I remembered his first name. In fairness, I was checking his last name, Harry Smart. Hopefully, they'll be hoping that it's a smart appointment. But no, I it's good actually that we've had so much uh, difference between us in some of our predictions this year because I have gone for Bedford, but I've got three other different teams as well in there. I agree with the points that Dickie's made. I think losing Tyrone Marsh is a big one. I think the most important one is losing Lee Bircham. If it wasn't for his experience last year, I do wonder whether or not they'd have actually stayed up. It was a bit of a crawl over the line, but he's got a way of finding results. And I do wonder whether or not Harry Smart's lack of experience may come back to bite them. Yes, they've made a couple of good signings in Laurie Walker on a permanent deal and George Moncur as well, but I think they will go down. I've got them in 22nd. 24th, I have got Hebburn Town. Again, a little potentially a little bit naive in not having seen a great deal of them. It's always, you know, you either get a Merthyr Town or you get a Needham Market situation. Wherever teams come up, some really do well, some don't. I may well look back on this one at the end of the season as with egg on me face, but I have put them to finish in 24th. In 23rd, I've got Kings Lynn, which may be a bit of a surprise, given that they have made a couple of good signings. I like Kwame Thomas. I think he's got a value at this level. I do like Zach Mills, obviously a player that Christian's seen at Boston. And although he didn't play a great deal of football last year, I actually really like Aaron Jones as well, obviously going back to his former team. The reason I put it in there, for as much as I think he's honest and straight talking, I just don't rate Paul Caddis in terms of results. The Hereford team last year, obviously, we saw at the back end of the season that they were a much better team than perhaps they were showing under Paul Caddis. And I look at the Kings Lynn team, is it much better than what he had at Hereford? And the resources there, I doubt whether it is. So I've put them in 23rd. My surprise pick in the bottom four, similarly on the lines of what Dickie and Christian have done in terms of standing still, I have actually gone with Spennymoor to finish 21st, which will be a surprise, obviously, because they've got Glenn Taylor. But Bedford had a 25, 26 goal season striker last year, and they nearly went down. So I don't attribute too much to Glenn Taylor at this level still. I just don't think they've added enough in the summer. They've lost a few key players. It kind of petered out last season for them as well. And I make a case for the teams above them more so than I would for Spennymoor. And sometimes if you stand still and just expect, oh yeah, we'll be fine, we're always fine. Sometimes there'll be a season when you're not fine. And for Alfreton last year, they succumbed to it. And I just think Spennymoor may well go down. So I've got them in 21st.
It'd be a shame if they do. Lovely club, a ground I've still not been to, although of course I did get to see Spennymoor at Wembley against my own Aldershot side. For what it's worth, my bottom four, in no particular order actually at the moment, I've gone for Hebburn for similar reasons. I don't know enough about them, and I think they might be that newer, smaller club that may struggle at this level. And I think they'll love proving everybody wrong if that is the case. Southport and Chorley, I've kind of picked up the vibes, both those clubs, not quite hitting their stride like they have done in the past. And then with really heavy heart as well, particularly because they're the team I look out for first every week. And they're just 12 miles away from where I live, and that's Bedford Town. And really, in three reasons: because Laurie Walker's a good keeper, but he's not Nathan Ashmore. Michael Giassi is a really good striker on his day, but I don't think he has as many days as Tyrone Marsh. And Harry Smart, I don't know you, but if you're as good as Lee Bircham, I'll be surprised. So I fear for my local club, and I do, of course, hope that they stay up. But Bedford, Hebburn, Southport, and Chorley are my bottom four. Quick thoughts, chaps, on top scorer in the division. I'm going to go right back to Dickie and Christian first. That'll give me and Joe a bit of thinking time. Dickie, as our National League North man, you can go first.
I think it would be probably hard to see past Paul Blackett at South Shields again. If Danny Elliott is fit again now for Macclesfield, I would think he would be a contender for that as well. Um, they're kind of two standout names for me. Looking around elsewhere, no, I think I'll go for the. I'll go for. I say one of those two. I'll go for Blackett.
Okay, Christian.
Well, that's good because I was going to go for Danny Elliott. So Dickie saved me having to explain anything and gone for somebody else.
They're the two names I wrote down, and I'm just going to say, without a shadow of a doubt, if he stays fit, I'd have to go with Elliott. But if you said who's definitely going to be fit and definitely going to be in and around the 20 goal mark, I'd have to go Blackett, and I don't think he's had the injury history, has he? So I'm going to go Blackett as a safer bet. And Joe, what about you?
Yeah, well, I'll go outside the box. I like to try and pick a little bit of a rogue shout. I've got two names, really. One, I think will play a lot more centrally this year for Brackley, and that's Matt Lowe. Really, really good finisher. And the one player who, for his signing for this club, I really put Southport to have a really good season, and that's Sol Solomon, who signed from Tranmere on a permanent deal. I believe he was at Marine and Jersey Bulls as well, and was smashing them in for them. So I think he could be the Tyrone Marsh for this season.
Great stuff. Thank you, chaps. At this point, we're going to let Christian go. Say good night to you, or good day, or whatever time anyone's listening to this. Goodbye, anyway, Christian. Thanks for joining us.
Very comforted by Dickie and Joe being fairly close to what I predicted for a lot of clubs there. Good to see you all again, and I think I'll see you in closer quarters on Saturday, Rob.
Certainly will. Look forward to it, Christian. All the best.
Cheers, gents. See you later.
Take care.
We're going to move on now and preview the National League South. Joe, you are the member of our team that supports one club that's in this division and works for a different one. So there you go. Shades of Mitch at Dorking Wanderers, wasn't it, when they were playing Aldershot, and Mark said, "If they score and you cheer." I mean, how are you feeling already about Torquay against Hemel and Hemel against Torquay?
Yeah, quite looking forward to it, actually. I got my accreditation to be on the bench, so if there's a last minute winner for Hemel, I'll be knee sliding across Plainmoor. It's going to obviously be odd, I think it's obviously both teams will be looking to have a good season, of course, it'd be nice to have a foot in both camps this season.
Before we get going, and we'll talk about title contenders, and I know there'll be some familiar names, and of course, in the last couple of years, that title's been up for grabs so late on. 6 teams involved in it 2 years ago, 3 or 4 come the last couple of fixtures last season. I'm actually the most confident of all 3 leagues with my top 7 teams in the National League South. And I'm just going to come flying out with it. And then I'll come to you, Joe. I'm going Dorking, Torquay, Chelmsford, Dagenham, Ebbsfleet, Truro, Farnham. There you go. That's my top 7. More meat on the bones as we go through. But Joe, you're the one that's going to give us the most kind of content and sort of substance behind this. Let's talk about the title contenders. For me, it's between Dorking and Torquay. I'm gonna doff my cap to Mr. Misery Guts himself. If he gets it right at Chelmsford, they could enter the fray, but I'm not sure on that one. So I'm going to say it's between Dorking and Torquay. Not too dissimilar to the way things finished last year, of course, Hornchurch aside. But how have you got it? Do you think it'll be those 2 for the title, or have you got more teams that will be in the mix?
Well, I've actually gone for somebody other than Dorking and Torquay to win it.
Go for it then. Let's hear who it is.
I've gone for Dagenham. I think are going to be most people's picks because of the money that they've spent, the pressure that is on them. I think they should. I use the word should win it. They should be sniffing around the title, given that the players that they have brought in, players like Harry Beautyman, who is still a really, really good player for this level. I really like the signing of Anthony Papadopoulos as well. And I think the fact that they've managed to prize away Archie Tamplin from Chelmsford may be a one-up on potentially a promotion rival in Chelmsford. He is a really good midfielder, probably one of the best that I saw last year in terms of his work rate. I think the only question mark I do have on Dagenham is twofold: whether or not Lee Allenson himself is able to take a team who, let's be honest, Hemel last year, the fact that they got in the playoffs was a surprise and was very difficult to manage long term. They only had a goal difference of +7. Very few teams do that by getting in the playoffs with such a low goal difference. They didn't score a lot of goals, but he almost had a bit of a free hit in that his teams were set up to be very direct, play into the channels and not too much football. Whereas at Dagenham, there'll be a lot of expectation on him to bring in good technical footballers, to dominate games, to always be that team going and winning games. And it's that change in mindset for me. The other thing, I just think the balance of the team is still lacking. Lots of Dagenham fans saying they're looking particularly weak down their left-hand side. Harry Beautyman playing as a left winger for Dagenham, which I don't believe is his best position. And defensively, I do have the odd question mark. But they have got the money to strengthen if they need to mid-season. I really like Lee Allenson as a manager. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say that now as a Hemel employee, but I really like Lee Allenson. Really, really good coach. There's a lot of positivity around the place at Dagenham at the moment, and I think they will just pip to the title.
And when you say just pip, are they just pipping the likes of Dorking and Torquay, or have we got anyone else that seriously can
Yeah,
contend?
so I've got Torquay in second, which would be agonising again, and I've got Dorking in third. I think Dorking have added really, really well in the summer. I think Mark's done a fantastic job with the players that he's brought in. I actually think they go into the season with a better squad than they finished last year. Certainly first 11. I'm really excited to see Josh Barrett. He's an enigma. Whether or not they can get the results and also the balance with him in the team, because you do almost play with 10 when you haven't got the ball, but such a quality player with it. I think George Nikaj, don't want to jump the gun, but I think he could be a shout for top scorer this season. I think they've added really smartly there. And Harry Forster on a 3-year deal from Crawley is certainly a bit of an eye-catching one. The
And we've
only question mark,
still got Alfie Rutherford, of course, as well, who's proven year in year out at the level. Yeah.
the only question mark for me is the fact that their injury record, and I think it's very difficult to put nail my colours to the mast that they'll go all the way, when very often you've got to have that luck in the injury department. And we saw at the back end of the last season, obviously that was pretty much their downfall, because they came to play more with a central midfielder at centre half. They were virtually, at one point, they'd have probably been asking for fans to be playing at wing back. Such a small squad in terms of their availability. If they can get everybody fit and available, I think they have got the best squad in the division and the best players. However, I think they may just fall short. But I think that they have strengthened and are well placed to challenge again under Mark, as they always do.
Yeah, I can't add too much to that other than to say it's been a massive focus for Mark and the management team. The back office, as he calls it, and looking and analysing about all these injuries. The one biggest factor that they can't change is the pitch. They are about, I think it's been announced now, secure the long-term management of the lease of Meadowbank, which is fantastic for them. Huge focus on those continual injury problems. I think there's a few kicking about now again, even at the start of the season, which will be frustrating for Mark, but they really have signed well. I think the Josh Barrett one, there's no doubting his quality, and he's going to leave the Wanderers supporters with some wonderful moments across the season. There's no doubt about that at all. Can they find the right way to get the best out of him? I think you do have to be brave. I think Tommy was brave, and John Coleman to some extent a lot of the time with Josh. You have a little bit of magic in your hands, but you can't necessarily do all the pressing elements of the game that perhaps you want to do in terms of winning the ball back, But an absolute magician. I'm delighted that having left Aldershot, he's gone to Dorking, a club that I know well and a team that I go and watch quite regularly. And I can't wait to see JB. I want to call him JB10 because he's always been that, but he's going to be JB39, I think, at Dorking. Dickie, high time we brought you in. So we've talked about Dagenham, Torquay and Dorking as being potential title contenders. Would you concur with that? And do you want to throw any other names in?
They are the team, the three teams that I've put in for second and third. So so no variation from me on that. So yes, it's I guess when we move a little lower, we might get some divergence.
Yeah, let's do that then. I touched on my others, so that was three of my top four. Chelmsford, I've got third. What do you think of Chelmsford, Joe? I know that you think highly of Mark Cooper. He has a terrific record at this level, bringing teams up to the National League, doesn't he? So, what do you think of the business he's done in the transfer market, in the player recruitment side at Chelmsford, and compared to what they had last season?
Yeah, mixed, I would say. I think that's the one question mark I do have. Obviously, another person I know in John Still is now there heading up the recruitment. So obviously, real experience in that department. They've made a couple of really good signings that I like if they can keep them fit. That being the key, of course. Reece Brown, with his experience, should be a really good player for this level. And then you've got the trio from Southend in Cav Miley, Jack Bridge, and Nathan Ralph, which are three brilliant pickups there. For me, I have got Chelmsford in fourth. I think they'll be in and around the playoffs. I think it's going to be a season where they're going to have to be patient because when Yeovil won the division under Mark Cooper, they were in mid-table for a long part of the season, and it was only when they had a couple of mid-season additions in Joe Day and Michael Smith that saw about an increase in their fortune. So I think we'll see the best version of Chelmsford towards the back end. I think they're going to have to be patient, and potentially that may be why they do fall short of those top three. But Mark's a good manager. You know, he's the only manager out of the 72 managers that has won every National League. One promotion from every National League. And Chelmsford have got a very, very good budget to be able to strengthen with players bringing in. Obviously, this week alone, they've brought in Mandela Egbo, who obviously had a period there last season, and also Adam May as well from Forest Green. So, yeah, I think it's a very different style under Mark to what you had under Angelo Harrop. It's a lot more about having the ball, keeping it, and trying to entice teams to then play through with quick transitions. If they can get it right, Mark's shown that he can get success. I think they'll finish fourth, and I think they'll be in the mix.
Okay, so we got the same top four, you and I. Dickie, do you occur? Do you concur? And what are your thoughts? Talking of good budgets, what are your thoughts on Ebbsfleet? Everyone reckoned that they had a title contending budget last season. I'm not up to speed on that. I've got them finishing fifth. Thoughts for you on Chelmsford and Ebbsfleet?
I've got Chelmsford in fifth. So one different from you. I've got Ebbsfleet not making the playoffs. Again, I think there was some rumours or suggestions last week that there were further financial issues swirling around. I just kind of think those can never help. So I have to say that was the forefront of my mind there when I didn't pick them for a playoff spot.
Where did you say you've got Ebbsfleet, Joe?
So I've actually got Ebbsfleet in sixth.
Yeah.
I think they will feel very disappointed that they didn't get into the playoffs last season. They probably chucked 15 points away. I haven't done the maths, but probably 15 points away on the board that they should have had. They conceded a lot of late goals. They were winning so many games until the death and then only got a draw. I think they will improve. I think they've added really smartly. Dan Oganley from Brentwood's a really good signing. I like the signing of Harvey Walker as well. And they had a really good squad anyway, which they've managed to keep the bulk of. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of pressure on Josh Wright, given that he's been able to strengthen his team that they strengthened on last season. So I think they will. I think there'll always be that dark cloud over them, given that they have got that winding up petition from HMRC in the background, albeit Ebbsfleet assure themselves that it will all be sorted and it's not a problem. But I think they'll be in sixth.
All right, well, let's tidy up our remaining teams in the top seven then. I've got Truro in there, and why wouldn't they be? They won the National League South title 2 years ago. A little bit like Brackley, they only managed the one season at the top tier of non-league, but I've no reason to believe that they won't compete well towards the top end of the National League South. And then my little bit of left field, might be a little bit too much of an expectation for their first season, but you have to look along from afar and see something refreshing, something different. A great story, really, with Farnham Town. For me, it's nothing to do with the fact that they're just a few miles down the road geographically from my own club, Aldershot. It's just one that's caught the eye, hasn't it? You've got a really different kind of owner who, probably divides opinion with some people, but he's refreshing in his honesty, and he's very, very transparent in the way he he manages the business, if you like. I think they've made some good signings as well. I think they'll have momentum from last year. I don't think teams will particularly enjoy going to Farnham. I think they'll have a strong home record, and I think they might just sneak into those playoffs. What about you, Joe? What's your thoughts on Farnham, and who else have you got in your top seven?
Yeah, well, I can see why you've gone with Farnham, given it is such a just a feel good around the club. I actually have gone a little bit cautious because I think the way that they play may just need that little bit of refinement and balance. I've put them in 16th, which, to be honest, I don't think they should turn their nose up at for their first season at this level. In fifth, I've actually gone for Maidenhead. Really like the job that Ryan Peters is doing there. I think he's added really smartly in the summer with some of the business that they've done. Josh Coley is back there, having left Sutton. Really good player who was there a couple of seasons ago and did really, really well. They've brought in Connor Hall, someone that we've seen in the National League North, and they've also brought in Daniel Unkremar, who did really well at Hampton and Richmond. For my team in seventh, I have gone for a little bit of a dark horse, like you, Rob, and it's another team that come up and another team beginning with F, but I've gone for Folkestone Invicta under Jay Saunders. Retained virtually all of their squad or all of the players that they wanted to from last season. They've added big in the summer, brought in a couple of really expensive and really experienced players, with John Akinde being perhaps the most notable of those. Really experienced forward who's been around the block in these leagues. And they've got a manager in Jay Saunders who always overperforms. I think getting Folkestone promoted last year wasn't a surprise. But when he was at Tonbridge, he did such sterling work. Really impressed by what he did there. And a little bit like Boston and a little bit like Telford in my other two predictions, if you're going to back the horse of somebody in either of these leagues to, creep into a seventh spot, then I think Jay Saunders is a pretty good person to back.
Yep, fair enough. And what about you, Dickie? Who else have you got in your top seven that we haven't touched on yet?
Let me just have a look. I'm pleased you went for Maidenhead because I've got them in seventh. I've gone for Weston-super-Mare in sixth. They just on the basis that they always seem to be in and around there. I considered Truro City, but just again not sure about the fact that they've had the relegation again. It was a question that I think the owner has actually bought a stake in somebody else or something like that at the same time. Again, there's just a little bit of doubt in the air there for me.
I think the bubble might have burst.
Possibly so, yeah. I mean, they did fantastically well to get there, but it was a bit of a chastening experience in the National League, wasn't for him. And I think the rebuild and I think the bounce back might take a little bit longer. So that's why I went for them to not get into the playoffs.
Just quickly on both of those, I think what's going to be really key for them is two players, one for either side in terms of injuries. Eminem Lewis for Weston-super-Mare, brilliant for them, really good defender. Unfortunately, done his ACL in the last week of pre-season, not ideal. And obviously, last time we saw Truro in this league, they had Tyler Harvey. We hardly saw him at all in the National League. Struggle with injuries all season. Obviously, they've no longer got Jays Cabia either, who's now in the Football League. So I think they may struggle for goals if they can't keep Harvey fit.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right, then. The more difficult bit, perhaps, predicting four teams to go down. I'll start by teasing you two of my names, okay? We talked yesterday about how much we love Scotty and the job he's got now at Aldershot. I think he's been a big, big factor in keeping Slough where they are. And I think there's just question marks there. It's going to be very tough. I'd love to see them stay up again, but I fear they may be in the bottom four this season. Scotty will chuckle at that because every year everybody picked Slough to be in the bottom four, didn't they? And another team beginning with S as well. Not based on too much fact, but just a little bit of a hunch. Salisbury. I think they might be in the bottom four. Joe, you could put far more meat on the bones with these. So feed us a couple of yours.
Yeah, so I have also gone with Slough.
Yeah.
I do, for the same concerns that you had. They've lost a lot of their players, not as including obviously Scotty as well, who I think did such a brilliant job there. I did have Salisbury just outside. I think they'll stay up. They don't have the biggest squad, but they've got a couple of really good players. Nathan Odoconiero and Josh Hedges for a full season, I think could be quite nice for them. In terms of the rest of the business, bottom of the league, I've gone for Dover. They were a little bit fortunate to stay up last season. They've not added a great deal in the summer. And I think it's becoming increasingly difficult for teams that are part-time to compete at this level. And given that they were the best of the worst of the rest last season, and they haven't strengthened. And most of the teams that have come up are better than them. I think they'll go. The other team I've gone for as well is Walton and Hersham. I think Walton and Hersham, if they'd have kept their players and their manager, you'd have said, yeah, they'll stand a really good chance. But they've lost virtually the whole team in the summer. Josh Barker, Ethan Light, Mason Obeng, Joel Powell, and obviously Billy Rowley at the back end of last season. It's an unknown manager with a lot of young players, and I think they will struggle. In terms of the other team, my fourth team in there, and I hate putting them in there because I don't want them to go down. I know a couple of people there, and I hope they stay up. But I'm going to go for AFC Totton. They've been very quiet in the summer. Yes, they've made one or two good signings. Tyler Cordner's back there on a permanent deal. Obviously, Scott Rendell is in his first full season in charge. Experience as a player, but not as a coach. And they had one of the smallest squads in the division last season. I remember they turned up to play Chippenham at the end of the season and only had 14 players. So they don't have one of the biggest squads and haven't been wholly sold on all the business that they've done. And I think that they may well just fall short and finish in 21st.
Fair enough. So that means that Joe, you and I have gone for three of the four same teams. I've also got Dover and Walton and Hersham joining Slough and Salisbury. Dickie, who have you got? Might
I
as well
too,
run them through all four
yeah,
now.
I too have Slough and Dover in there. I guess for similar reasons to the ones that you've given there. Um, I have Hampton and Richmond Borough in there. They're a club that I like. They give off really good vibes and but I think they're off. I think on the field they've been slipping back and slipping back and slipping back for a little while now. And again, when you've got fresh teams coming into the division who, will give it a bit more of a go, possibly. That's kind of why I went for them. Although clearly there's the Dow's factor there, isn't there, which we shouldn't write off. And I went for, again, probably in my ignorance, I went for Horsham. Just uh,
Difficult second season.
Yeah, possibly so. I mean, he was close. I had Salisbury in 20th. I considered Salisbury, and then I thought, I think they might just be okay. But they were almost in there. But that was why I went for Horsham. I think I've just probably given the benefit of the doubt to some of the promoted teams there, like Walton and Hersham, and just kind of thought, well, let's probably again guided by my heart more than my head. But that's what I've gone for.
Good stuff. I'd like to say best of luck to Alan Dowson at Hampton and Richmond. A few more Aldershot players have gone in that direction now to team up with Dowson, who of course was at the EBB for a lot of last season. I'd like to wish Scotty Rendell good luck as well. First full season at Tottenham. And one club that I see a number of clubs have predicted to finish in the bottom four, and none of us three have mentioned. I'd also like to wish Danny Scopes really good luck with Billy Ricky as well. Another chap who has been on our podcast on a number of occasions, and all the best for the fight. Right, we've got just about 2 minutes left, chaps. Top scorers in the National League South. Joe, I'll come to you first, as you're probably going to give us some left field name anyway.
I'll go with Josh Steele. No, I won't. I hope it's Josh Steele, our new signing at Hemel, who's been in brilliant form in pre-season. Yeah, I think you'd have to look at George Nikaj for Dorking. I think he'll be brilliant with all the service that he will get. I think it might be a little bit of a two-way competition between the two lads up front for Torquay as well, in Dion Moore. And a player that Dickie may have seen last year, who was a little bit left field signing, but has been unbelievable in pre-season, in Isaac Westendorf, formerly of Oxford City. He looks so powerful, bit of a bully, and I like that up front. And I think they'll both do well.
Good stuff. I'm going for Nikaj. Dickie?
I'm going to hold my hands up and say that my knowledge of the South probably isn't good enough for me to pick anybody. But again, I wouldn't go against what you've said about Nick Edge with Dorking, because we know that the way Mark plays, we know they're entertaining, we know they score goals. So safety in numbers, I'll go with what I'll follow on with you two.
Good stuff. Thank you, chaps. Thank you, listeners. That completes our season preview for all three national leagues across the two different pods. And all that remains, with the few seconds we've got left to say, we'll see you after the first game weekend of the season. And Luke Edwards, would you kindly play the theme tune?